We are live. Welcome to a special edition of the CK podcast here on the Basketball Zone Cowbell Kingdom YouTube channel. Today, we're discussing my top 20 NBA players right now. And this is my criteria, which is season, playoffs, upside, and leadership qualities. I got my boy Isaiah Efojie to come on here, discuss, and get into, I'm assuming, a heated conversation because
Oh my gosh.
nobody ever agrees with Listman. And we had about 300 comments on that post. It reached about 7,000 people, and I'll say this: not too many were happy about it. But yeah, bro, how you been? How's everything going?
I'm good. I'm great. I've been meeting the pod with you and get some more content with you, but our schedules don't align. I know where the time difference is apart, and I'm glad tonight we could just finally discuss some hoops like I've always been wanting to do.
Absolutely, brother. I'm super excited to talk about this, as we'll get some reaction from a lot of people, and you have the list in your hand. We'll go from 1 to 20, and then I'll give you guys who was in my top 25 if we get more time. But we'll try to get this done in about 30 minutes max, and we'll go with number one. I'm not mad at the people that said LeBron should be number one. Obviously, he just won NBA championship. He's NBA Finals MVP, but when you take into account everything that I said, which was season, age, playoffs, upside, and leadership qualities, and motor, and all these things, I gotta give the slight edge to Giannis only because he has about 10 more years in
Yeah.
him, and LeBron, I would say he has about 2 to 3 great years left in him. So with that said, I'm not mad if someone said LeBron's one and Giannis is two, but if you say anything different, like Giannis 4 or 5 and LeBron 4 or 5, I'd be upset with you. So as of right now, I got Giannis at one and LeBron at two. What are your thoughts on that, bro?
Um, the upside standpoint is the only reason I'm agreeing with you. Giannis is only 25. And so, with that being said, he has so much really great basketball ahead of him. But to stay in that number one spot amongst his contemporaries, I really feel what he needs to do is to keep developing the game, sacrifice some of the transition things, the freaky things he does in transition, and just develop a half court game that makes him more successful. But that'll come with getting a great point guard. And I know Eric Bledsoe is in question. I believe he's a great point guard, but just somebody to distribute him the ball and get him going in the half court, as well as him developing the half court game. So for him to stay number one amongst his contemporaries, he has to develop a half court game and then have someone distribute him the ball.
Real quick though, I'm noticing some glitch on your side. Is your Wi-Fi good? Because you keep cutting on and off, and wondering if other people are seeing that. Um, Before we keep on going.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is fine. Yeah,
Okay.
I connected it. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
Pretty. Okay, it's
So
good now.
at number 3 and 4, I have Kawhi Leonard at 3, Kevin Durant at 4. Arguably, KD can be number one on this list, right? But because he's coming off an
Exactly.
Achilles injury and he didn't play all of last season, I kind of had to slide him down. But arguably one of the best scorers, if not the best scorer in NBA history, had his size to do the things he can do, dribble the way he can, and just smoothly score the basketball for I don't know how many years now he's been doing it, but he's been doing it since he got into the league, man. So I got him at 4,
Right.
and Kawhi Leonard, even though he had a disappointing playoffs with the Clippers this year, he's still the MVP from I would say last year with the Raptors, and he still had a pretty good season this year. That's why I have him at 3 and KD at 4. What are your thoughts on that?
I think KD should be ahead of Kawhi Leonard. Dude, the scoring prowess carries more weight than what Kawhi Leonard could do on the defensive end as well as the offensive end. As you've seen in the playoffs, I believe if it was KD on the Clippers, he would have uplifted them. Even though you got to remember he's a 7 foot he's a 7 foot specimen that shoots at a 10 foot apex. And in defense, he's long and rangy, so his ability to alter passes and shots alone is I wouldn't say it's better than Kawhi's defense, but for some reason I just feel it has more impact. And so it was the playoff run that really puts Kevin Durant ahead of him. And hurt or not, I think Kevin Durant is a top 3 player on the planet.
I get it. No, I get it. So I'm again, we can always swap these picks at 3 and 4, but yeah, man, I just think his overall two-way upside, being a great defender defensively, and then just improving this game so much from his San Antonio days to what he is now. I think he's taking such a huge jump.
Right.
He's
Nobody saw this
money.
coming.
I mean, he's money from the mid range, and he has such big hands that when he does, Euro steps to the rim, he can just dunk on you without really having to jump out the gym. So, and then just his experience and the fact that he is, I believe, still LeBron's kryptonite, and they have yet to really, you know, face off like we thought they would have in the Battle of LA. But we might get that next year, man. We might get that next year. So for number 5, I gotta put the babyface assassin and Steph Curry. And then at 6, I got Lillard. This is where a lot of people really got mad at me because I have James Harden at 8 and then AD at 7. But really,
Ah,
I'm really trying to figure out if AD is better than Steph when Steph's healthy. I would say that's a hell no to me. And is he better than Dame? You can make that argument for sure. But at the same time, my kind of argument will always be, well, if Dame had LeBron James, they would have won the championship as well.
right. I think LeBron elevates everyone, but we cannot forget AD. He got lost in the shuffle due to his years in New Orleans. Didn't he have like a 50-point game, I believe, in New
Yeah, but
Orleans?
I just feel like he's always been like at best a 2, and he showed again that he's a 2. I just don't see him as a 1, which is why I have him at 7.
Okay, and you see, Dame Lillard is obviously a one in Portland.
I think he's a 1
So
on.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's tough to me. It's like AD may be the greatest Robin in NBA history. I just don't see him leading
Better
the
than Pippen.
team.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Pippen.
No,
But I
go ahead.
think
I
you're
mean,
right though. This
go ahead. I just feel like, and I'm gonna
this
stick to that. I don't see AD ever being an actual number 1 that leads his team to a championship ever.
I agree with that for sure. I
So,
agree with that.
so do you agree
Um,
with Curry at 5, Lillard at 6, AD at 7?
Yeah, so I believe people forgot about Steph Curry's greatness due to the injury, and this year has went by so long. Like, how can you forget Steph Curry and his offensive prowess behind the 3-point line? He's already one of the best shooters on the planet, and he's done it in a short amount of time. So that's a testament to his work ethic and the situation he has in Golden State with Steve Kerr and Bob Myers and company. So him at 5 is perfect with this list. Damian Lillard going for 6 ahead of AD. Yeah, Dame time.
Exactly.
He
Exactly.
sent who did he send on? No, yeah, he's obviously who he is in his own right, and he's a number 1 in Portland with a lesser talented team than the Lakers, and he still brings them to prominence, and he's a number 1. So let's not forget that. So this 5, 6, 7, this makes total sense. This makes total sense. I do agree with you on this.
And then I think the most infuriating part about this list for a lot of people was that James Harden was at 8, and I just couldn't justify putting him over AD, who was an NBA champion, who eliminated him in the playoffs. And again, I can swap AD for Dame Lillard, but I just think the leadership qualities of a Dame is what really put him over the top for me at number 6.
Right,
But
right,
I just couldn't justify putting James Harden over AD with the playoffs that AD had, his intensity and just his efficiency on both sides of the floor. I just couldn't do it, man. And as great as James Harden is, and this is crazy because people are like, no, he's definitely top 3, but I'm like, man, like he's not better than Curry, like he's not better than KD, than Kawhi, than AD. You can make an argument for him being better than Lillard, but he's not a better leader than Lillard. It's just it was
right.
hard for me to really put him ahead of any of these guys. Agree or disagree with that one?
I agree. I mean, obviously the skill from James Harden is superb, but the leadership qualities is also a thing. And even with all the skill that Houston that he as in Houston, he couldn't get the job done. So would you say that Houston and Portland are on the same level as far as they have a great guy and then the other guys are also exceptional but not as great? And you see Dame Lillard overcome what I would say, and I say this respectfully because this Portland team is going to be a monster in the future. But I think that Dame Lillard, with the supporting cast that he has, have done way better than James Harden, the supporting cast that he has. But that also goes to say they have young rising talent in Portland, like Anthony Simmons, Wayne Gabriel, and
Trent.
what's the kid's name? Gary Trent Jr.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So
Okay, so we have Harden at 8. Then I got Jokic at 9 and Luka at 10. Some people thought I could have put Luka at 9 and Jokic at 10 or at 10, but I mean, to me, Luka's gonna be a top 5 player soon. I just couldn't justify again putting him over Joker, who had a great playoff, led his team to the
right,
Western Conference Finals, and along with Jamal Murray, but I had a hard time right there, especially with Jimmy Butler at 11. But you can swap those 3 guys; they're all interchangeable, in my opinion. Agree? Thoughts on that?
right. Yeah, the 9 and 10, you got Joker at 9, you got Doncic at 10. I believe that I'm rooting for Joker on the fact that he was the 41st pick. So his second round pick and the things that he's done and his remember the body what is he? Like he's a big guy who's probably not in shape. His body is iffy, and so everything that he's done, he surpassed expectations tremendously. So him 9 spot and Doncic it doesn't take anything away from Luka.
Right.
It's just that the Joker has been so good you can't deny it. So him at 9 makes sense.
Perfect. Okay, so Jimmy at 11, and then Tatum at 12, where a lot of people thought that was really high, but I'm basing that obviously on his upside, on his potential. He was already really good this season, All-Star. And then Embiid. Embiid can arguably be top 5 too, just on his skill set, his size, and his prowess on defense. But because he's pretty much always banged up, he's not what he should be, in my opinion, as he's dominant, but he's not the dominant force that he should be. So I had him at 13, and
Right.
I had Tatum over him, man, just on that upside. The fact that he's a wing and the fact that he can just be great on both sides of the floor. Tatum didn't come into the league being a defensive stopper, but he's become a really good defender, in my opinion. And that's why I have him slotted at 11,
Right.
12, and 13. Thoughts on that?
Right. Jason Tatum at 12. He's sneaking up the thing. Jimmy has such a good run. I believe he's in my opinion, I would put Jimmy at 8. If we could switch the whole thing, Jimmy at 8 because he was labeled as the toxic guy. The league tried to vilify him for being a winner. And so for him to go to Miami and do what he does, he's really tough shit. Excuse my French. So I would, but this is okay. This is okay because Jason Tatum doesn't have that stain yet. And again, this is like I did with Doncic getting the Joker. This is no slight to Jason Tatum. It's just Jimmy Butler has been that damn good, and so I believe him at the 11th spot is fine. With Jason Tatum, fine, but Jason Tatum is coming for the league. He's coming. He's coming for everybody's head. He's not in the top 5 talk that he's supposed to be, and he's underrated. And it's kind of crazy, but he's coming for everybody's head. I believe that him at 12 on this list is no disrespect to him. It's just Jimmy Butler's been that damn good, leading the Miami Heat team to a finals full of undrafted guys and second round picks and guys who were paid as not even NBA players. For example, Kendrick Nunn. So they thought he wasn't an NBA player. Now look, and so for him to take that cast and win is hats off to Jimmy. So him at 11 makes the most sense.
Okay, so we got Embiid at 13, Siakam at 14, and DM Spider Mitchell at 15. Again, kind of went over Embiid already and his two-way greatness when he wants to be great. But Siakam at 14 surprised some people, especially because I put him over Paul George, who arguably before these playoffs really sunk him down in my rankings. I had him at top 10, but Paul George disappointed for the 3rd consecutive year. And Donovan Mitchell just had a hell of a playoffs, was pretty much a one-man show for the Jazz. And Siakam, just based on upside, based on his experience with being a Robin with Kawhi, will he ever be a Batman is the real question. but I'm not going to jump the gun and say he's not, because it takes an adjustment period when you are a Batman. And I felt like Siakam really struggled this year because he wasn't used to all the game plan and being around him and trying to stop him. And I think knowing that he has the right team with him, guiding him and supporting him, I feel like with one more year of experience, Siakam can really take that next level and potentially, that's the key word, potentially become that Batman. But again, some people may think that's too high, but I just think his two-way potential and his upside is just insane. I mean, he's Giannis-esque on so many levels when he wants to be. So I got him at 14, and then Donovan Mitchell. Can you say any more about this guy who plays with so much heart at 15, and then Paul George at 16? Again, Paul George was top 10 before the playoffs, but he dropped 6 spots in my rankings.
Yeah. So when you criteria, you put upside playoffs, and so with the playoffs, before we even get to the last few, I would have put Devin Booker over Paul George, and Paul George would have been 20. But before we even get him, he handled the pressure well, going from being Kawhi's guy, the number two, to he was forced to be the number one, and he responded well. I think people wanted him to do better, but that pressure of being a champion and the most improved player in the league, and now you go to being the number one, and they're keying on you now. There's no more. Let's get Kawhi and this Pascal guy from Cameroon. He might come out the cut and do anything. He was now the target, and he was now a plan. And teams actually orchestrated a plan for him, and so he handled it well. And could he do better? Yeah, I believe in Siakam, and I believe in a few years he'll be a dark horse for the MVP, and that's just my personal opinion. But I feel like him at 14. I would have set him over Embiid, and then of course Donovan Mitchell at 15 it just fits. It just fits right now for what he's done in the playoffs, and he's been playing exceptional basketball. And I expect a max contract for him in the near future. Utah, they have to keep him, and plus I just expect him to keep growing. So this is okay. This is all right.
Okay, so Paul George at 6, and then I got Simmons at 17, Kyrie at 18, Klay Thompson at 19, who a lot of people have forgotten. Before his injury, Klay was top 12 in my opinion. And then Devin Booker at 20, who to me, Booker was 30 before that bubble, and he made such a huge jump in his leadership and his ability well, he's always been able to score on all 3 levels, but he was so much more consistent now. So I jumped him up so much. It's crazy because this list doesn't even have the big elephant in the room, which is Russell Westbrook. A lot of people were upset with me, but
Right.
hey, man, it's just he's 32, coming off an injury. He's not getting any younger. He can't shoot anymore. So that's why I had him outside the top 20. But you can't tell me that any of these teams, including the Rockets, wouldn't prefer any of these guys over Russell Westbrook. And that's how ultimately I came up with this conclusion, because if you said, hey, Rockets, would you trade Russell Westbrook for Booker? Yes. Would you trade him for Thompson? And put him next to the ideal fit in Harden? Yes. Would you trade him for Kyrie? Yes. For Simmons? Yes. For George? Yes. I mean, I understand he had a great individual season from a stats perspective, but I just couldn't justify putting Russell Westbrook over any of these guys. Agree or disagree with that?
I don't. Um, I don't say I can't. And there's no knock to him. Like a lot of this stuff is no knock to the player that was left off. It's just when you got this group of 20 doing so well, it's kind of hard to go against. But Russell's an unbelievable player,
Yep, he
and
is.
so it's just a matter of him just keep going. I know you don't like him. You called me earlier and said you hate Russ, so we're gonna. But there's no point. Um,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, he's
that's
not my
not
favorite.
the
He's
point.
definitely not my favorite, but he plays so hard, and that I'll never ever deny that. He brings it every day, and for that you have to respect him. But he's been disappointing in the playoffs, I think, for the vast majority of his career. And again, playoffs for a guy like Siakam, he's gotten one chance to be a Batman, and Russell has gotten multiple chances to be that guy, and he's failed. Like this year, the Rockets could have easily lost in that first round to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that would have been his 3rd consecutive year losing in the first round. And without KD, he hasn't done much. as that guy in the playoffs. Obviously, he did win the MVP. He averaged a triple double. A lot of it too was because Steven Adams helped him out a lot, boxing out the other guys, and he would just swoop in there and just grab those rebounds. Again, it's not a knock on him and those rebounds, but at the same time, it didn't lead to great playoff performances. If you shoot the ball 30 times, I hope you can put up at least 20. Like if you're shooting the ball 30 times a game, you better put up at least 27 points a game, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then kind of my honorable mentions, uh, who I had at 21 was Jamal Murray. I mean, he had a hell of a playoffs. It looks like he's on the up, up, up. And then Bradley Beal, CP3, Russell Westbrook, and then Bam Adebayo to round out my 25. Uh, Thoughts on that?
Bam Adebayo. Yeah, man, he's a hell of a player.
Yeah.
CP3 at the age he is, he's playing exceptionally well. And I hear that there might be a trade for him to the Kings. I mean the Lakers. And yeah, I
Yeah.
believe
CP,
I
I'm
believe
like,
him
oh,
to the
what?
Lakers might be a thing.
Oh.
So that kind of
So CP3 to the Lakers. What do you like about that? I mean, to
yeah.
me, they'd win the championship again if he went over there.
Yeah, yeah, just off to the sunset. And it's not the end for him this year, but just kind of this I believe he deserves. If anybody wants to go and ring chase, it's Chris Paul. He just deserves it. He's been an exceptional player, the purest point guard in the game for so long. I would say he deserves to go sit back in LA, low management for about 20 games if he wants to, and just become that. If you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree, man. I think there's a lot of good stuff that's gonna happen that will transpire this off season. And if that's one of the big moves of
Right.
Chris Paul going to the Lakers, that's gonna be big time, bro. So definitely, I'm excited. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Make sure you guys share, subscribe, like this video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if you didn't. If you can drop a review on iTunes for us, we'd really appreciate it as well. Where can people follow you, bro? And what type of
Right.
projects do you have coming up?
Coming up, I'm just more interviews. Right now, Cut the Deck podcast is on 6 different platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, things like that. If you go to my Anchor link, which will be in the description, yeah, it's just a bunch of things. Just follow me on Instagram at Isaiah Efojie. All my Instagram TV content is up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Cut the Deck TV. So
There it is, y'all. We
yeah,
appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you guys, and we'll see you guys on the next one.